wave continues. Sunny today, high of 95 with a heat index at 103. Partly cloudy tonight with a low of 74. Sun again tomorrow, the high 95, the heat index 104. Mike Jackson, WSIC News.
Conversations that matter.
I gotta tell you, I'm afraid to even think about the next presidential election.
Led by you.
It's a mockery of American politics.
This is WSIC News Talk Now.
Hello all, and welcome to the fourth segment of the L Show's Hot Girl Summer Series, where the L in the L Show means that we are not going to shy away. We are leaning into any subject matter, no matter how taboo or how uncomfortable. Things like menopause, sex and vaginal dryness, supplements, vitamins, weight loss, hair loss, and anything else that is important to us maturing women in this prime time of our lives. So thank you to all who are tuning in and either watching or listening to the show. I am your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman. I'm a pharmacist and the owner of Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary here in Cornelius, where our focus is on functional medicine. My team and I, we actually make medications based upon your provider's prescription that we formulate specifically for you. Also known as, this is what compounding pharmacies do. We also provide holistic alternatives like supplements, vitamins, and much, much more. You can find more about my company by going to my website, roserxboutique.com, or you can check us out on Instagram and Facebook at Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary. I would now like to introduce my beautiful co-host, Dr. Coral Kirscher, who is the owner of Renew Health and Wellness, also here in Cornelius. Welcome, Dr. Kirscher, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I know you're busy. You have a brand new, beautiful baby girl named Harbor. Love the name. And so it's taken time away from her, so I appreciate you spending the time with us.
Thank you. Thank you bringing me on here, honestly.
Well, of course, like just knowledgeable and amazing. So tell us about you and your practice.
So I've been in women's health for about 13 years now. And when I moved to the Mooresville area, I actually worked at Lake Norman OBGYN, did more conventional medicine. And I actually, had a chronic disease myself. I just realized that the conventional medical model just wasn't working for me. So my husband and I actually own Renew Health and Wellness, and he does a lot of PRP, exosomes, and was doing a lot of joint pain. So I joined in, and we started doing a lot of functional medicine and things of that nature, and really trying to get to the root cause, because that's what really helped heal me, honestly.
Well, so I love that. Because your personal story really makes you so relatable, and it resonates with so many women. You're able to meet women where they are, and they're looking for something different, right? They're looking for something different from mainstream. Health and wellness options beyond the beaten path, and you offer that. So that is amazing. Thank you. Being one of these women. Thank you.
Thank you
very much. To our listeners, some of the content may not be suitable for all audiences, and the information presented in this show is not intended to replace the advice of your healthcare provider. For those of you who missed any of our previous shows in this Hot Girl Summer Series, you can go to WSICnews.com and click on the L Show under radio shows, and you can find them there. This week's topic is hair loss, when we are discussing why on earth we are balding in all the wrong places. And hopefully give some clarity and hope to those suffering from hair loss and balding. So while hair loss really happens to both men and women, right, as we age. I know that for the majority of our listeners, for the majority of women, it affects women and men so differently from a psychological perspective. There are depression, anxiety, certain compulsions that happen, your self-esteem. Like, we really suffer through the hair loss piece. And I know that there may be some women out there who can take it in stride and, just keep on moving. Not me. Like,
And me either.
Right, like really. So you agree. And it's funny though. So I read an article. I found this article in the International Journal of Women's Dermatology, and it was about female pattern baldness and hormonal therapy. Well, what I found to be really funny about this article was, that the way that the intro started, I feel like it really further backs up my thoughts around our issues seeming foreign and that no one really talks about them, no one brings it to light, and that it needs to be like studied or examined before it's actually valid. The latter information in this article, I'll just put this out there. The latter information in this article is very informative. It's around therapy options and things like that. But I just find it funny that there's actually an article whose primary author is a man opening up the intro by saying, well, let me say this. The co-author is a woman, but the primary author is a man, opening up by sharing data on how women feel about hair loss and how it influences our mood, things we already know, our self-esteem in certain cases, and the negative mental effects when we experience hair loss. And then goes on to say, basically like this announcement, letting practitioners know that they need to be compassionate in these women. And I was like, wow, this is kind of like reading an instruction manual for model number 465. That's the way I felt, like really.
Like, come on. I mean, that's the first thing I did was do my hair when I was
Right.
getting ready this morning.
Right. Exactly. Like that's the first thing. That's what we do, right? Like that's a part of like our presentation of ourselves to the world. Like
Absolutely.
that is how important it is. I mean, men may feel bad about losing some hair and whatnot, but women, we take it to heart because of how important it is to who we are and our identities for the most part.
Yeah, and every 6 to 8 weeks we go and get our hair done.
Exactly, girl. Or for me, more often than that, girl.
Right.
More often than that. Okay. I hope my hairdresser is listening right now. I need to make another appointment.
That's right.
So when we talk about the term alopecia, we use that term in practice, right? But not many people may really know like what that term is. Is it just like a generic term for hair loss or?
Absolutely. So it's more of a broad term of hair loss,
Mhm.
I'd say. It can really impact our scalp, our whole body. It can be related to, inflammation. It can be
Mhm.
permanent. It can be temporary.
Mhm.
So I would say, yeah, it's definitely a broad term as far as hair loss
Gotcha.
goes. Yeah.
So essentially, I would like to have whole body alopecia from the neck down. That's what I'd like. Okay.
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, please.
Oh, I'm one of those. So in your practice, what are some of the causes and types of alopecia that you see mostly?
So I have a tendency to see mostly like as far as hair loss goes, from stressors,
Mm-hmm.
postpartum is a big one,
Mm-hmm.
lack of nutrition, hormonal issues, immune dysfunction. I mean, there's a lot of different types of hair loss, but that is
Mhm.
kind of the tendency, especially I would say in females for sure.
Gotcha. And I know there's also been like the questions around medications, causing like hair loss, and that's being one of the side effects. And yes, we do see hair loss as listed as a possible side effect for women people who are taking blood pressure medications, antidepressants, sometimes cholesterol medications. The side effect is out there as a possibility, but it's so rare that it happens. Typically, the reason why somebody is having hair loss is because of something other than medication.
Right. And I mean, you're
So.
definitely the expert on that.
Thank you. All right, so when we get back, we will continue our discussion with Dr. Kirscher on hair loss during this transitional time in our lives. See you soon.
Rooted in your community. WSIC. News, talk, now.
Here's WSIC Community Calendar. Ever wonder what Mooresville was like in 1873? The historic downtown walking tour is a self-guided tour that will take you on a stroll through Mooresville's past to learn about the history of the town. Featuring 18 stops, the tour begins and ends at the corner of Main Street and Center Avenue. It should take 1 hour to complete. For more info, visit downtownmooresville.com. Are you a movie lover? Statesville's Parks and Rec Department will be having their Movies in the Park series on Friday, July 28th. They will be playing Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Seating opens at 8 o'clock and the movie will begin at 8:45. Refreshments will be available. Everything is $1. Bring your blanket and lawn chairs and enjoy a movie in the park. For more info, visit statesvillenc.com. Do you enjoy making pottery? Kane Center for the Arts in Cornelius has Ceramics Open Studio. Select Tuesdays and Saturdays, you can become the clay artist you were always meant to be. You must register in person. For the full schedule, visit canearts.org. That's CAIN arts.org. Grab your safety goggles for some mad science involving deadly cobras, irate Irishmen, and the occasional airship. Davidson community players will be presenting the Explorers Club on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays through July. For more information on show times and to buy your tickets, visit davidsoncommunityplayers.org. Have an event you'd like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
I'm Nick Rice with your WSIC forecast. As we head through the rest of the afternoon, it's going to stay mostly sunny with a high in the mid-90s. Heat index values will be up to 102. Tonight, partly cloudy, low 74. On Saturday, there's a slight chance of a shower, and a thunderstorm is also possible. It's going to be partly sunny with a high of 93. I'm Nick Rice from WSIC's Weather Center.
Join Oswald Baptist Church Sunday morning at 10 here on WSIC.
Be a part of the conversation.
We can't fix America's debt by starving its people.
Have your say.
One shooting after another, and we're doing nothing to solve it?
This is WSIC News Talk Now.
Good morning.
Enjoy that morning coffee with Justin Kazepis.
Hope, how we doing this morning?
You know, it was a little rough period there, but I'm getting my happiness back, and you're absolutely helping.
It's Good Morning LKN, weekdays 7 to 9 a.m. on WSIC.
Welcome back to the fourth segment of our Hot Girl Summer Series, where we are discussing balding in all the wrong places. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Roseborough Eastman, pharmacist and owner of Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary here in Cornelius, and I'm here with my guest host, Dr. Coral Kirscher, owner of Renew Health and Wellness, also here in Cornelius. So let's jump back into where we left off. You had mentioned previously around some of the things that you see in your practice that cause hair loss, and you spoke about stressors, you spoke about postpartum and immune dysfunction. I mean, I can speak from experience around the stress causing hair loss. And you're not really thinking about why there is so much hair on that brush when you're brushing your hair. All you care about is that it is there and that something changes and you're like, oh my gosh. But you mentioned postpartum and immune dysfunction. And you have personal experiences with both of these. And I appreciate you being open to talk about them. You just had, of course, a beautiful baby girl, as I mentioned, and you also have Hashimoto's disease. So what has been your experience with postpartum hair loss? And then let's talk about what it looks like with Hashimoto's disease.
Sure. So Harbor's about 4 months old now. And about month 3 or 4, a lot of times being postpartum is kind of the time that you really start to increase the shedding of the hair, and we don't go through those shedding cycles as much during pregnancy. So especially when you're breastfeeding, I mean, you just don't have the hormones in your body like you would when normal cycling or even pregnant. So I'm definitely noticing a lot more hair loss, and thank God my hair, stylist. She's been great in trying to help me out with that. But I also realized that I had iron deficiency in postpartum too. So that was kind of a double whammy there. But, we're working through it, and, hopefully we can get past these 3 to 4 months.
Yes.
As far as Hashimoto's, a couple years ago, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, and it's actually an autoimmune disease. And so when you have that immune dysregulation, a lot of times, you will lose part of your eyebrows. You'll definitely start to, lose.
Really?
Yep. So you'll start to lose a lot of your hair and things of that nature. So the double insult was a little much for me. I obviously never recovered fully from that just because of how long it takes. So I'm saying a couple years, my hair's going to hopefully be looking really good.
Well, it looks good. It looks good. It looks good now, right?
Thank you.
So in Hashimoto's, really, like, what's going on? So your immune system is
with our Hashimoto's, basically what's happening is any type of autoimmune condition, our bodies are attacking itself. So that leads to more inflammation and a lot of other issues, and so therefore hair loss can just be a side effect from that too, unfortunately.
Wow. But we're working through that.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So.
Yeah, and that's looked pretty good. Now it's the postpartum really. I'm working through.
Gotcha.
Okay. We both definitely have personal experience with this hair loss stuff.
Yes. So now let's segue into the most common cause of hair loss in both men and women over the age of 40, which we know is due to hormones. It's commonly, and our listeners, you probably have heard these terms, it's known as male or female pattern baldness, but there is a technical term for that, right?
There is, and it's androgenic alopecia. And basically, it is from the effect of androgens. When we were producing testosterone, we also have a byproduct of testosterone that's more alpha dominant, which can be the DHT.
Gotcha. And it's the DHT that basically attacks the follicle, and that causes the follicle to shrink, I believe. So it shrinks, and then that hair. I heard one clinician say it's like you're going from these terminal hairs, which are the long hairs, to like peach fuzz. It starts to kind of resemble the hair that you have on your forehead or somewhere like that. So
yes, especially in that that front part of the hair.
Right. But we're still experiencing hair growth. It's just the hair is just
not as good as it
not
used
as
to
good.
be.
And kind of small. Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha. So, but I know that there are things that natural supplements and things like that people can take that can help with that as well. Things like
stinging nettle root or saw palmetto or things of that nature. Yeah.
Gotcha. Saw palmetto. Well, so let's get into like some natural ways to help slow down this hair loss issue. I mean, without getting super scientific for our listeners, any therapy that we use, regardless of if it's natural, if it's pharmaceutical, or any behaviors, the goal of that therapy is going to be to target either one or more of the stages, right?
Correct.
The stages of hair growth. And we're trying to prevent any further damage or breakage, right?
Absolutely.
So I think it's just kind of thinking about from a basic hair care perspective, like protecting the hair that has not left our heads. What kind of things that we can do, right? So I mean, regardless of if you're experiencing hair loss or not, if you're on a medication or not, everyone should be incorporating these things into your hair routine, because there's no point in like seeking hair loss treatment if you don't take the basic precautions to protect the hair
every day
that you have. So basic hair care, loose styles. I know you said you're a ponytail girl.
I am such a ponytail girl. And I tell my patients all the time, don't wear your ponytail as I'm wearing my ponytail.
Exactly. Right.
Although I do have a 4-month-old too.
Yes, there you go. Listen, you got it. So yeah, like, and I don't really think about that, because the first thing that you want to do, like when you get home, you put your hair back or you put it up or you're thinking about, you're trying to protect your hair from like elements, but sometimes that puts stress, right?
100%.
Stress on, the hair and, like, and we think of like protective styles. When we hear protective styles, people think about like, oh, wearing braids or, something where you're not manipulating, but that's putting tension.
Still, yeah,
That's still tension on your hair. Even like wigs, not giving your scalp enough time to breathe, right? So oxygen is required for you to get hair growth, right? So if you're doing things like wearing wigs all the time, not giving yourself a chance to breathe, that's also something that, people could consider changing that routine up a bit. But also washing your hair every day, right? So
yeah, and I mean, I'm fortunate enough that I can generally get by about 2 times a week, honestly.
Yeah,
And
yeah, right.
of course, use that dry shampoo that I probably have in right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, making dry shampoo your new BFF, I think, is super important, right? Because honestly, that's just more like the overwashing of your hair, drying it out, making it more brittle. Like there are things that we can do to try to keep our scalps clean without putting that stress on the tresses, right?
Yeah, put that in your gym bag.
Right.
Put it everywhere you can.
Exactly. So what about like heat protectant and like deep conditioning? So my stylist is very big on like, listen, this is what we're doing. She tells me this is what we're doing. Okay. And we got a deep condition. And before you see me, you make sure you have done X, Y, Z. So I'm like, sure, got it. But she really just drives in just the moisturization piece of it. And that helps your hair not be as brittle, so you don't have the amount of shedding that you could have if your hair is over cleaned.
Right, and I think that's really important. I just got a treatment the other day. Like I said, my hairstylist takes pretty good care of my hair too. So I think that is very important too. And of course, making sure it's non-toxic, things like that is always a good thing too.
Absolutely,
obviously.
absolutely. Now, I'll say this too: with ethnic hair, our hair requires a little more complicated. It's a little more complicated routine. There's a lot more manipulation that we go through, and so that, of course, makes us more susceptible to the breakage. But trying to do the things like deep conditioning and trying to kind of leave your hair alone, getting away from the heat are things that are just super, super, super helpful. But that's just another piece that we don't really talk a whole lot about. But when you have curly hair or ethnic hair to where it's more textured, that's going to just require more manipulation. So dealing with that and the possibility of having hair loss issues outside of the fact that manipulation is like double whammy, right?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Okay, so nutrition and supplements. Let's talk about that. So lack of vitamins. You mentioned iron earlier.
Yeah.
And so kind of talk to us about like the importance of iron with regard to hair loss.
So I see it a lot in obviously postpartum women. And, a lot of times patients who are going through the perimenopause, which a lot of times I see in the 40s, and that's the years leading up to menopause. And that could be due to heavier menstrual cycles. It could be, from a lot of different things. But really making sure that iron, ferritin levels, all those different types of things are within normal range is really, really super important because that can be a big impact on our hair loss.
So also, like we talk about vitamins like A, C, D, E, zinc, and how the lack of those just slow hair growth or cause hair loss. There are, what are your thoughts about like hair, skin, and nail supplements? So
I think it's great. I really do. I think, knowing where your source is from, is really, really important, as you know that.
Absolutely. I'll say this. There are many hair, skin, nail supplements out there, and I, of course, have my own line of supplements at my store. But regardless of where you buy from, make sure that you know where the source is, that it's third-party tested, so that you know what you're getting in that bottle. Now is not the time that you want to take chances with your hair. So when we come back, we will continue discussing hair loss during this time with Dr. Kirscher.
Local news and weather now on the new 105.9, 100.7 WSIC. News Talk Now.
I'm Mike Jackson. Jackson, WSIC News. Iredell County Sheriff Darren Campbell was sworn in as president of the North Carolina Sheriff's Association for 2023-2024 at the annual business conference in Myrtle Beach on Monday. Campbell was unanimously elected by his peers, making him the second sheriff from Iredell County to serve as NCSA president in the organization's 101-year history. And extreme heat brings unique challenges for the state's $100 billion agriculture industry. Farmers in the central part of the state are doing what they can to keep the crops and livestock healthy as heat indexes have begun to break triple digits this week. Kurt Honeycutt, who owns Honeycutt Farms, said those kinds of temperatures can also become critical for crops like sweet corn. Now sports, Joe Berg.
Well, the NFL season is upon us, and we have some major NFL training camp injuries from yesterday. Joe Burrow strained his calf, and Jalen Ramsey will have surgery on his knee and will be out for months.
WSIC weather sunny and hot today with a high of 95 and a heat index at 103. Partly cloudy tonight, the low 74. More sun tomorrow with a high of 95 and the heat index at 104. Mike Jackson, WSIC News.
Don't miss the final days of end-of-season deals during the truckload event at Lowe's. Right now, save on major appliances and get an additional 10% off in-store clearance appliances. Plus, you can get up to 35% off select tools and accessories. Find big savings during the final days of the truckload event, happening now. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 8-2. Exclusions apply while supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for details.
The extracurricular activities, the traffic, the nightly homework, the traffic, the finding time to eat dinner together as a family, the traffic. Back to school can be stressful. Thanks to Ziploc, meal prep doesn't have to be. New Ziploc bags with Stay Open design have a patented stand-up bottom that helps keep the bag upright and a top crease that folds and holds for easy filling, unlocking a second set of hands in the kitchen. If only it unlocked a second set of lanes. New Ziploc brand freezer and storage bags with Stay Open design from S.C. Johnson, a family company.
Prioritizing your health is one of the best ways to take care of yourself. From routine visits to the joys of pregnancy to the illnesses that stop you in your tracks, Iredell Health System will be by your side. Learn more at iredellhealth.org.
Folks, you know Randy Marion sells vehicles the King of Price way, but did you know our service department? We service vehicles the King of Price way. We sell tires, we sell brakes, we sell batteries, we sell the maintenance. We help you keep your vehicle on the road safe, ready to drive. Whatever the season is, Randy Marion Service Departments have you covered. Come see us today because, folks, again, you know we sell the King of Price way and we do service the King of Price way.
King of Price, RandyMarionStatesville.com.
Have you ever met a single person in your life that enjoys paying taxes? No, no one does. If you can't sleep at night because you have a huge problem with the IRS, I've got some free advice for you. This service is strictly limited to individuals that owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes. And if you qualify, we can guarantee that you won't be writing a big fat check to the IRS or our services cost you nothing. The first 100 people that call today will get a free tax consultation worth $500. Stop worrying about your IRS problem. We can help you, we promise. Call the tax doctor right now. I mean right now to learn more.
Call 844-TAX-LAWS. 844-TAX-LAWS. 844-TA.
Eagle Rentals, making it easy for all your construction equipment rentals. They also have the generators, heaters, fans, painting equipment, floor equipment, pressure washing. They got it all over there, ready to help you with all of your jobs, making it easy. Eagle Rental also has those Husqvarna K1 paste. Yes, the concrete saws, 93 volts. Get rid of all the fumes and all that stuff when you're working inside. Going electric at Eagle Rentals. Eagle Rentals in Troutman and in Statesville, making your work easy. Visit EagleRentals.com for more information. Go see them, EagleRentals.com.
All the news, one station. News Talk WSIC.
Welcome back to the fourth installment of the Elle Show's Hot Girl Summer Series, where we are discussing hair loss and its causes. We've already discussed the psychological effects, and we are also discussing different options for treatment that doesn't always involve medication. So when we are talking about, ways that we're going to treat someone's hair loss. So if we are addressing a hormonal imbalance, for instance, do you like to add on any additional hair loss therapies over and above like your hormonal therapy, or do you wait to see how the hormonal therapy is going to be first?
I think that just depends on the patient, honestly. Because you never really know if they're interested in doing additional things. I'll be honest with you, if it was myself, I would be doing both. That's for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Give it to me. Yes.
Give it to
and
me.
I'll have one of those
Yes.
too.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know you're trying to get to the root cause, but also you think about it like from a psychological piece, we're trying to correct my hormones. I'm having this hair loss. So I need to be feeling like I'm doing as much as I can, and I don't like to wait and see and whatnot. I want to throw everything in the pot.
Yes,
to see what's going to stick.
Yeah,
right.
And I always say, we have to treat the inside and the outside. So we really have to make sure we treat both.
So let's talk about treatment from what you guys do at your clinic. So what's your approach to that patient in her 40s who comes to you? Her primary concern is hair loss. And she may be a new patient. You don't know her, so you don't know if she's perimenopausal or menopausal. And for our listeners, menopause basically is when you haven't had a period for greater than 12 months. Perimenopause is when you're starting to miss and whatnot. So you're in that range, but you're not there. You haven't hit that 12-month mark. So just for our listeners, that's just defining that for you. But going back to my question, so could be a new patient. Like, what is your approach to that patient?
Sure. So we normally start with a pretty extensive history and physical. A lot of times we will do lab work on top of that, just to really make sure that we dive in deep and really kind of get to that root cause. And then, of course, we make a treatment plan based on those results. We have a lot of other therapies we obviously offer too, to really make sure that we're getting those results as well. So we really want to make sure we meet those patients' goals.
Gotcha. And just going back to what you said, it really depends on that patient, considering her state of mind, where she is, and that kind of helps you to also develop that plan as well for her.
Correct.
And I like the fact that you include, like it's inclusive, which is what we want. We want somebody to sit down and talk to us. Let us pour our hearts out for a little bit on what's going on.
Yes, that's so important.
Yeah, let's figure this thing out together because I'm partnering with you to help me fix my problem.
Yes, and we want to be listened to. We really do.
Exactly. So you mentioned some things that you like to do. So what are some of the non-pharmaceutical therapies that you really like to use in your practice?
So we have a lot of different things we utilize. We utilize exosomes, PRP, platelet-rich plasma, and a Silpherm treatment as well for that hair loss.
So for the listeners, tell me what is exosomes? What is that?
So exosomes are, they contain growth factors, essentially. They have anti-inflammatory molecules, and they really can promote hair growth and regrowth to just of the hair and the follicles. So basically what we're utilizing is exosomes can be from a lot of different places, but a lot of times they're the Wharton's jelly of cesarean births. And so we're utilizing those immature cells with all those growth factors and anti-inflammatory molecules that really help promote hair growth.
Wow. Okay. So maybe I need to get some. So what about platelet-rich plasma, PRP? So what's that?
So PRP is actually, we take the growth factors, we would draw your blood, and we would take those, spin it down, we take those growth factors from you, and we either microneedle or inject into the scalp those growth factors to really help. The exosomes, I find that the exosomes work a lot better than the PRP, and the reason why is just because obviously that's going to depend on, your growth factors. What kind of health are you in? Do you have diabetes, hypertension? You have a lot of inflammatory things going on. Obviously, they're not going to be as beneficial as exosomes would be.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So if you're already dealing with, all of these deficiencies, why are you now going to use that same,
Right.
resource there, right?
Absolutely.
So okay, I'm saying Silfirm.
Silfirm.
Silfirm. What is Silfirm?
So Silfirm is a microneedler, but we utilize radio frequency waves with it too. So we can do a couple different things. I find that I like to use the Silfirm. It's kind of like a microneedler on steroids, basically.
Okay.
But I like to use it in the scalp area, just because I find that they don't hurt as bad as maybe injections would be into that area. And plus, I can use numbing cream too. So I find that patients have a pretty good response with both, but it's just a little more comfortable for the patient.
So are you injecting only in the area? Are you doing it only in the areas of, or are you doing, so tell me
so you can do it in the areas of concern, or you can do it the whole scalp to really help that. So it just depends from person to person what their goals are, their trouble areas.
Okay. Okay. So I'm learning something today. So what about someone who is like not a candidate for hormone therapy? Like, what are some of the therapies that you like to use?
So I generally refer to you on that. Dr. Eastman is my compounding pharmacist.
Yes.
I know that you have a ton of specialty formulas for that.
I got it. In my toolbox. So I'll say this, like, I have some favorites that, I like to recommend, like, topical minoxidil is one of the ones that I really, really, really like. It's been studied so much, and it's been studied with microneedling. And so microneedling, of course, as you said, just the benefits of microneedling, but, when you add those things together, like minoxidil, topical minoxidil, and microneedling, you can get growth beyond what you thought was possible. I mean, it's a huge, huge, huge difference. I actually need to show you some pictures. I should have brought in some pictures to show you. But so topical minoxidil is a favorite. Topical finasteride is also one that I like to use, and I like to use some caffeine, which is great. And biotin is another one that I love to use. And there are a few that like some cosmetic preparations that we like to use in addition to, like on top of, the minoxidil or finasteride.
Right.
So, but again, there are a number of different combinations that we could come up with for a patient that's specific, for them. But I'll tell you, as I said, microneedling is an adjunct for many of the treatments that we would look into. But I'll say, even though when we think about these treatments and they're not considered hormonal treatments, they are affecting the production of that testosterone byproduct, which is DHT.
Right.
So it's not considered a hormonal treatment, but it's affecting, an androgen, a sex hormone. So when I guess I can ask you this question. What are some of the pointers, though, that you give? I know what I tell patients when they pick up for me, and I'm like, okay, this is what we're giving you, and this is kind of what to expect. But sometimes they come already knowing, what to expect and whatnot. But what are some pointers that you give clients when you're saying, hey, I'm going to prescribe this for you, as far as compliance or whatever is concerned?
So I always tell them it's going to take quite a while, just because of the growth cycles, unfortunately. So they just really being consistent is going to be super important, super important.
And so there is that piece of, I always say, I've gotten the call where, oh my gosh, my hair, I'm seeing more shedding. But that's typical. To see some shedding at the beginning.
That's a great point.
That's it. Let them know that it's working.
Yes.
You just give it a little time, but we always see that up front. So, that's just setting those expectations. And like you said, being consistent is important. All right. Well, we will be back with the Elle Show, where we're discussing these issues associated with balding in all the wrong places.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Ever wonder what Mooresville was like in 1873? The historic downtown walking tour is a self-guided tour that will take you on a stroll through Mooresville's past to learn about the history of the town. Featuring 18 stops, the tour begins and ends at the corner of Main Street and Center Avenue. It should take 1 hour to complete. For more info, visit downtownmooresville.com. Are you a movie lover? Statesville's Parks and Rec Department will be having their Movies in the Park series on Friday, July 28th. They will be playing Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Seating opens at 8 o'clock and the movie will begin at 8:45. Refreshments will be available. Everything is $1. Bring your blanket and lawn chairs and enjoy a movie in the park. For more info, visit statesvillenc.com. Do you enjoy making pottery? Kane Center for the Arts in Cornelius has Ceramics Open Studio. Select Tuesdays and Saturdays, you can become the clay artist you were always meant to be. You must register in person. For the full schedule, visit canearts.org. That's CAIN arts.org. Grab your safety goggles for some mad science involving deadly cobras, irate Irishmen, and the occasional airship. Davidson community players will be presenting the Explorers Club on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays through July. For more information on show times and to buy your tickets, visit davidsoncommunityplayers.org. Have an event you'd like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
I'm Nick Rice with your WSIC forecast. As we head through the rest of the afternoon, it's going to stay mostly sunny with a high in the mid-90s. Heat index values will be up to 102. Tonight, partly cloudy, a low of 74. On Saturday, there's a slight chance of a shower, and a thunderstorm is also possible. It's going to be partly sunny with a high of 93. I'm Nick Rice from WSIC's Weather Center.
This deal is so big, I've got it at Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville and Randy Marion Ford Lincoln in Statesville. How about 2021 Toyota 4Runners? These are the SR5s and the TRD off-roads starting at $34,980. Folks, this is a huge deal. Big selection, over 30 of these vehicles. Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville, Randy Marion Ford Lincoln. You know where we are. Look for the spinning cars. That is where the deals are. We've got these Toyotas. They won't last long. Again, $34,990. Come check them out and take one home today.
Hey everyone, this is Robert Carey from America's #1 travel radio show. Join Mary and me and Rudy each Saturday as we cover the ever-evolving world of travel, talk with newsmakers, share compelling experiences, and explore the world together during the fastest 2 hours in travel on RM World Travel.
Welcome back to the L Show. I am your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman, and I'm here with my beautiful guest host, Dr. Cole Kirscher, owner of Renew Health and Wellness. So now we're at the last segment where we would like to answer questions that have come through the week from clients walking through the doors. And so I like to answer those questions on air for everybody's benefit. So let's just get into some of these questions. Okay, so all right, so one of the questions that I received was around hair loss and being overweight. It was, does being overweight have any effect on hair loss?
Yes, for sure. First of all, being overweight a lot of times comes with insulin resistance, which, as you know, can really drive up those testosterone levels, especially more of the alpha side of the DHT we were talking about, which really can promote hair loss. Of course, you know, being overweight, also obesity, can also cause inflammatory, you know, issues as well, which a lot of times when we have a lot of inflammation in our bodies, it's just not something that is, you know, I mean, that's kind of a typical thing that we see. Your body's busy doing other things, essentially.
Mhm.
Doesn't really care about maybe
Yeah.
growing hair so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely see that can happen. And plus with, when we're overweight, we just a lot of times don't have the best body, when it
Mhm.
comes to inside.
Mhm.
A lot of times, like I said, inflammation can cause issues. And so really our bodies they're just busy doing other things, and
Mhm.
so it doesn't say, oh, I got to go and grow hair.
Mhm.
I've got other things to attend to, essentially.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. It's going to utilize resources on what's necessary versus what is an option, right? So,
Right.
it's not something that's required for us to live.
Yes.
It's just something that we like to see. And our
Yes,
bodies
yes,
are like,
yes.
listen, dude, I got other things. We got to allocate some resources somewhere else. And so we just need to rest a little bit.
100%. Yeah.
Right?
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
so great answer to that. And I hope our listener, now understands better around that correlation to where you are with your weight and how that can affect hair loss. So the next question, and people don't really think about this, so when we're talking about hair loss, we have, preventing hair loss and hair growth. And people kind of, they lump those things together, but they are two separate things. And so the question was, what's the difference between, preventing hair loss and hair growth? So, you can chime in and tell me, what you think about this, but really when we're talking about preventing hair loss, we are trying to keep the hair that we have on our heads. We don't want it to go away. And it doesn't mean that your hair isn't growing. It just means that you are entering into that phase quicker and that phase of shedding quicker, right? So what we try to do is that's what we're trying to target. How do we increase the amount of time the hair stays on your head? So that's how we're preventing hair loss. Now, hair growth, that's different because hair growth, we're trying to basically keep you in that phase of the hair cycle that is all about growth. And so we target that phase to make it longer. So the longer someone's hair is, the longer they're in that phase. So when we're talking about hair growth, for people who may have issues with hair growth, it is, okay, how can we keep you in that growth phase longer? Is that a good explanation? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it definitely does. And really making sure we target both, I think, is really
Mhm.
important.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
because having
Right.
one without the other is kind of
That's
like,
true.
so
That's true.
making sure we really target both, I think, is really important too. Yeah.
That's actually true. I didn't think about that. I'm like, yeah, okay, you're just growing it. But you're like thinking about, okay, you're growing, shed it, you're growing, shed it. So, all right. So the next question. So if someone starts taking an oral hair loss medication, whether it's prescription, a vitamin supplement that's supposed to help with hair growth, is sudden hair growth in the entire body likely to happen?
No, absolutely not. No.
Start taking it now. You have hairy arms that are like, 5 feet long and whatnot. So no.
And thank God we have laser hair removal, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
just in case. But no, that's definitely a misconception.
Mhm.
When we're targeting the follicles of the scalp, it's a little different than when we're, than the, hair on the rest of our body, essentially.
Right.
So.
Right. So, and it's funny because one of the things that I was talking with my pharmacy student about this week, when we were talking about DHT, and this is just something for people who, just a fun fact. But when we're talking about that byproduct of testosterone, what it's doing, it's grabbing onto that hair follicle. And on your head, it causes hair loss. But like everywhere else, like on your chin, on your face, it causes hair growth. On your back, it causes hair growth.
Right.
You know,
It's like, this isn't fair.
yeah, like give me a break, figure it out, fix it, So but it's interesting though, Coral, because as we started out the show just talking about, you know, how important this is for women, how important it is for women to be able to know, number one, that even though they're going through these transitions in their lives, hormonal fluctuations, that there is hope and that there are things that can be done to help them. And especially with something like hair loss, because we know it's a part of who we are. Like,
Yeah, it's our identity.
we identify with it. We
yes,
identify with it.
absolutely.
I can say this. Um, when I get up in the morning and, I'm like trying to get dressed and whatnot, literally, if like my hair actually dictates how I feel about what I'm looking at in my closet.
Yes, yes.
Is
Yes,
that
girl,
the
I
same for you?
agree.
Yeah,
Yes,
like
100%.
seriously,
Yes,
like it
yes.
dictates. So, and I know maybe for some male listeners out there, they may say, okay, this is nuts. This is absolutely nuts. But this is the psychology of like women, right? Of women and how we identify with what some people may say is vain, but okay, fine, it is, whatever. But it's who we are. And it's how we present ourselves to the world. It's our brand, all of that. And so, yeah, I can agree with some people who say, you know what, as long as my hair is looking good, I can work with just about everything else.
That's
I,
right.
I can work with just about everything
That's
else.
right.
But I do want to get back to something really quickly though, because you didn't touch on, uh, how you were able to with the Hashimoto's, what uh, what sort of therapies did you do?
Yeah, so obviously, like I said, making sure we treat the inside and the outside is super
Mm-hmm.
important.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, treating the inside was healing
Mm-hmm.
that autoimmune disease and Hashimoto's, which
Mm-hmm.
was a continuous thing for me,
Mm-hmm.
but it is pretty much under control at this point in time. And my husband and I, so we were talking about men. Actually, my husband, he is pretty big on making sure that his hair stays where it's at too.
Really?
He is. I don't know if he'll admit that to anybody, but here it is on radio.
I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna ask.
So him and I, we actually both do those therapies ourselves. So we
Mhm.
do the injections into
Mhm.
our those and of course now we having that microneedler, it's a whole lot better. But we do all of those things to make sure that we don't lose.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Micah, I got some questions for you. I got some questions for you if you're listening out there. That is so interesting. So, you know, again, like ultimately what we're trying to do here is make sure that people just are aware of the options that are out there to fix whatever or to help them through whatever issues that they're having. And that's what the L show is really about. Um, and so I want to first say thank you to everyone who has tuned in to this week's segment of the L Show. Again, I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman, a pharmacist and owner of Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary. And a huge thank you to my guest host, Dr. Coral Kirscher, owner of Renew Health and Wellness in Cornelius.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. But if you missed any part of the show, you can go to WSICnews.com and we will have previous segments posted. You can also follow WSIC News on Facebook where you can watch and listen and replay episodes. We would love to hear your thoughts and feedback and encourage any topic ideas or any questions that you would like answered on next week's question of the week by calling 1-844-STUDIO-4 or 1-844-788-3464. And to find out more about me and my store, you can visit Instagram, Facebook, or my website at Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary or roserxboutique.com. Love to have you visit my store at 2035 Jeton Road, Suite B in Cornelius, directly behind that McAllister's and Circle K. You can also visit Dr. Kirscher at Renew Health and Wellness at 18805 West Catawba Avenue, Suite 100 in Cornelius. Now, ladies, listen, block off that 3 to 4 p.m. time slot every Friday for the L Show because I want this to be our happy hour where we are wrapping up our busy week together on a very uplifting note. Thanks again to our listeners, and I can't wait to see you guys next week. Take care.
The new 105.9, 100.7 WSIC, Statesville, W290DK, Mooresville, Lake Norman, North Charlotte.